Whenever we cover cars in our auction preview videos, we often wonder what happens to the cars after all the auction houses have found new homes for them. Are they squirreled away into private collections, fully restored, pressed into regular service, or polished for weekend classic car shows? Now, if you saw our wb&sons December 2021 auction preview video, you might remember this bit. Love this, Porsche 944. Now, these are going up in value.
They certainly are, yeah, and this looks like quite an honest example, doesn't it?
Well, we know what happened to that one because we bought it. Say hello to our latest project car, a Porsche 944. We've been long overdue some Porsche action on Classics World, and we thought what better way to do it than to just buy one. Say hello to our Porsche 944 S. And S is the important bit there, because you might see that little badge there down at the bottom of the wings, 16 Ventila. Now Ventila is German for valve, and that's right, this isn't an 8-valve 944, this is a 16-valve one. It's not the base model, and crucially, it's a manual in a rather lovely shade of grey here. This is a really good starting point for a project car. Now you might notice that it's got a private plate on it. To be honest, we don't really need that, so if you're watching this and that private plate is relevant to you, do get in touch, it will be for sale. But this car's got quite a history with it. You'll see on the windscreen there's a couple of stickers, and after a bit of translate action, they're both written in Catalan, because this car spent a lot of its time down in Spain as a kind of fun car for a few months down holidaying in Europe. Now going up and down to Spain every year does mean this car's got quite high mileage on it. It's almost 170,000, but that's not unusual for a 944. These are stout, reliable, dependable cars. But let's have a bit of a closer look around this car, because the paint on the bonnet isn't brilliant, to be honest. It is a bit flat. It's not scratched, it's not fading or cracked. It's just in need of a good polish, and that further points to the fact this car spent a lot of its time in Spain. Has got a sunroof, but that is going to be staying firmly closed because frankly, I wouldn't trust a 35-year-old sunroof. Just clean the drainage channels and keep it closed. Inside, just have a look in there. Behold the 80s Germanness. Red leather, absolutely everywhere. And it's in really good condition as well. Despite that 170,000 miles, the steering wheel is only slightly worn there. That seat bolster isn't brilliant, to be honest. It might need re-dyeing or re-trimming, or we might just get a new seat, but either way, that will need sorting. But the dashboard's not cracked, which is quite a common thing for 944s. The gear knob's not all threadbare. The only other real thing in there I do want to change is that head unit. It's new enough to be non-original to the car, but it's also absolutely hideous. It's about a late 90s spec, and it doesn't even have Bluetooth or anything you'd want in a stereo these days, so that will be changed. Bodywork wise, it's really clean though. Come down here, there's no major dings or dents or scrapes. There's this bit of vinyl here, which is essentially a stone chip protector, kind of like those rubber things we've got on the arches on the Bentley, and they do go a bit cracked and faded over time, but they're cheap and easy to replace, so that's not a problem. The wheels are nice and clean. Even around the back, the light lenses aren't cracked. It doesn't look like it's backed into anything at any point. It's not perfect. There's a few tatty bits of interior trim. The paint does need a good buff up. There's the odd little bit of trim piece that needs tidying up or repainting or replacing. It does need a good service and just a bit of love. But at the end of the day, we paid the sort of money you'd pay for an 8-valve auto. We got a 16-valve manual, which is honest, it's enthusiast owned, and I am already in love with it. But of course, the beauty of a 944 is more than skin deep. So let's find out if it drives like it looks.
But first, our friends at Lancaster Insurance are giving you the chance to win this Sealy 12-volt cordless power tool kit, including hammer drill, ratchet wrench, impact driver, and more. Click the link in the description to enter, and good luck.
Now, before you go for a drive in any car with pop-up headlights, there's one thing you've got to do. Oh yeah. Feels pretty good on initial inspection. There's a little rattle from underneath the gear knob. I think there's a bit of plastic underneath it that's just sort of knocking the... Yeah, you can hear it from the gear knob itself. That might need sorting. Other things, there's a little rattle from the dash or the door card. I think that might need tightening up a little bit, but brakes are really good actually. Good amount of feel there. Gear change is tight. Obviously it's a transaxle in these, so it's not directly down onto the gearbox like you would have with an MX-5, for example. There is actually a linkage between the gear lever in the middle here, the gearbox at the back. Steering feels really good, really sharp. Drives down the road straight, doesn't tram line, doesn't wiggle. Brakes in a straight line. There's no mechanical noises. There's no rumbling from the diff or clonks from the suspension. It's worth noting when we were pulling it out of the wb&sons showroom this morning, we had to jump start it a couple of times because it has been on a trickle charge, but it's got some stupid aftermarket alarm. That means it is draining the battery a little bit, so probably first on our to-do list is going to be to get that alarm sorted, i.e. binned. You can probably hear going over the bumps, there's a few little rattles in places. There's pieces where trim's obviously come apart and not been put back together properly, but I think that's just a couple of hours with a screwdriver should sort that out. The most conspicuous issue at the moment is the speedo, or rather the lack of it. It looks to me like it's been apart because there's quite a big gap under the clock itself, and the speedo isn't working at all, and nor is the trip meter. But on the whole, it feels good, it feels tight, the engine feels strong, doesn't hesitate under acceleration, doesn't bulk or anything. So was it worth the trip all the way up to Newcastle to pick up this 944S then? Absolutely it was. It's a really, really good basis for a project car. Cosmetically, it's tidy with some potential in it. There's a little bit of bubbling on one of those arches, which is going to be nice and easy to catch now while it's not bad. And inside, it's just replacing pieces and tightening up the trim to stop some of those rattles. It's early days, but on first impressions, I'm loving it.